So I've been thinking about certain things about my life, and I realized that God has given me a clarity of thoughts, processes, kind of about you know my mental health journey. And so my earliest thoughts about mental health was in my teenage years, when I expressed to my mom that I felt like I was depressed. But because she's a Christian, most Christians don't want you to say negative things about that. And so because she is a Christian, I agree, and I was, I was a Christian too because I follow God as well. And so I began to just kind of dismiss it as maybe I just needed to be happier about my life. And so when I realized that my view of myself was not the same view as other people, it was odd. So I didn't get it at first. Like it just didn't make sense to me. And so the first time that I realized that my view of myself was different than other people viewed me was when, homeless people would come up to me and ask me for money. And so, I didn't think I was dressed any certain way. So, I would just get them what I had. And so I would always tell people, if they would ask me for certain stuff, I'd be like, I don't have no money. And they'd be like, I know you got money. I know you got money. And I'm like, I'm telling you, I don't have any money. And so they'd be like, I know you got $1 or something. And I would have $1. I would have $1. And so I would get the homeless person, maybe $1 or whatever like that. And so, I guess I was dressed kind of nice and they, just assumed that. And so after I had my mental health break, people would still ask me, homeless people would still ask me for money. And so after I had my mental health break, I was actually looking like I didn't have no money. And so they still decided to ask me for money. And I'm like, now I didn't look as bad as them, but I wasn't dressed up. I didn't have no fashion on, I was just looking normal. And they still would come and ask me for money. And I'm like, it had to hit me because I'm like, why do these people think I have money and I don't have money? What are they seeing that I have not seen in myself? And so as I continue to unpack that, I just didn't understand that. And so I realized that I'm not living in the same reality everybody else is. Now, when the psychiatrist says that, they usually call that schizophrenia, which is what they diagnosed me with. Now, the thing of it is that if I'm not living in everybody else's reality and they're living in some other reality, then who's right? You know what I mean? Who's seeing properly, which is what I had to understand. And so I had to figure, because this happened to me so much. Now, sometimes I was looking like $1,000,000. I didn't have a dime in my pocket. And I could kind of see then when they was like, I know you got money. Because I kind of look like it. So I could kind of see that. But then when I started to dress like I didn't have any money, they still would do that. And so then when I used to say, you know what, I feel sick, I'm not feeling good, they'd be like, oh no, you're fine. And it's like, do you just not want to hear my reality or my truth, or you just don't care, And so that's when I realized that something is happening that's totally just out of my control and weird, you know? Because when I tell my truth, it's as if people decide that that's not true and they won't accept that from me. And that's very odd because society tells you to tell the truth, tell the truth, tell the truth. But then when you tell the truth, now they don't want to hear that, or they don't want to accept that, or they don't want your truth to be truth. They want their truth to be true. And so we're really having some type of mental dilemma in our cognitive ability with truth telling, you know. And so when I realized that, a homeless man kind of telling me I got money and I don't, it's kind of like, okay, he may not be mentally stable. But somebody that is mentally stable telling me that what I'm saying is not true, then we have to really sit down and figure out, if I'm wrong or if you're wrong. And so when I had to really come to grips and I had to think about that I was not living in the same reality as everyone else. And I had to realize that either they didn't want to know the truth or they just didn't care. And so both realities I had to be okay with. And so that's where a lot of my behaviors came from, because what I realized is that people say, do as I say and not as I do, and so it's not really a platform for people to actually say, I'm hurting, or I'm in pain, or this is not right, or that's not right. It's just kind of like, shut up and roll with the punches. So now when you tell people to shut up and roll with the punches, now they're in survival mode, because at this point, no one has heard my cries. And so when someone gets into survival mode, they're willing to do whatever to survive. Not me per se, but, just in general. And so that is a dangerous space to put people in when they're trying to explain to you and tell you something's happening to me. I need your help, And so people really need to have an outlet and an open mind when someone has come to them and said, can you help me? I have a problem. We need to have mediators in place to help people instead of saying, shut up and stop crying, because now, you've put this individual, maybe you could have put them on a dark path because they've told you several times that I'm having a problem. And so, it's just something to think about when you're dealing with people and you're dealing with the public and they're continually trying to reach out and trying to speak their truth and tell you something that's happening that's detrimental. So the last thing we want to do is let people take what's that word? We don't want them to take justice in their own hands, because that's pretty much where we're headed, if the people who are supposed to help us are not doing that. And so I realized that I enjoy speaking to people. I enjoy hearing their experiences. I enjoy hearing their opportunities, the good, the bad, and the ugly. And so what I realized in hearing countless of stories of individuals is that when someone didn't take them seriously, they just had to do what they had to do to survive. And, it didn't look pretty. Because when you think about someone's fighting for survival, you really see them grimy, you really see them dirty, you see them just, willing to do whatever to survive. And that is just a dangerous space for someone to be in, you know, and the other people who are around them are not in survival mode, you know. And so now you have a loose cannon around you who is in survival mode, and you're not. You know what I mean? So their heightened awareness is raised, but yours is not. So now you're a target. And so that's what I really see is going on with the youth, because they've cried out to us about certain things and we kind of just ignore it. And now we're seeing the effects of ignoring something that's very detrimental to someone. And so I believe that God does everything in his own timing. And because of that, I realized that when God moves, if you're not in tune with him, you're going to miss it. You know what I mean? You're going to miss it. And so it could be because he wants you to miss it, or it could simply be just because you were too stubborn to realize that something is happening, and you need to know what it is. And so what I love about God is he does give second chances if he believes you deserve it. And so when you change your heart posture to him, you begin to see him open up things to you and for you in a way that you're able to receive it. And so I wish that everyone who is following Christ is able to receive him in a way that it doesn't take from his glory, but it actually magnifies his glory in your life, and you start to see life differently. Because if we continue to perpetuate the cycle of violence, no one wins. And so that is just something that we will have to tell the youth, that karma is very real, and you reap what you sow. That is a universal law, not just biblical law. And so when you begin to move into the laws of physics and science, you really understand that when you do something good or bad, you create a rippling effect in, I'll say, the algorithm or the universe. Because I saw a scientist talk about this a long time ago. He said everything is based on math. And science is based on math as well. So everything is based on math. And so we could be in an algorithm. And so when you use the algorithm, you want to always continuously put in positivity. Because when you start to do some negativity and you do that rippling effect, it may not say, oh, you hit her, so I'm going to just hit you. It may be like, I'm going to do it worse because you shouldn't have did that. You know what I mean? And so we always have to teach our youth and even adults that when you begin to do some karmic activity as far as negativity, that it may not be what you put out, but it may be worse, because God cannot lie. You know what I mean? So he can't lie. Like, he's put everything on himself, and he has rules that he had to follow, and he can love you to death. But if he said this is it, this is it. He is a king, and this is what it's gonna be. And so people really have to see God in that light. I hear a lot of Christians saying, oh, God loved me. He loved me. And yes, he loves everyone. But just as he loves you, and you do something negative to someone else, then you gonna get it back too. So you know what I mean? So it's not like I get to skate because he loved me so much. So you don't get to skate. And so that is why we should tell the youth that, this system that we were born into, they basically tell you to hit the person back who hit you. And the Bible doesn't speak of that. It says do not hit the person back who hit you. And so I'm not perpetuating a cycle of violence, but I'm saying if there is another way where you don't have to be physical at all, let's try to figure that out. Because when you go on this tangent of abuse, you have to expect that to come back to you, because nothing escapes God. And so this is just something that I've been kind of thinking about for a long time, because I actually heard a pastor say, oh, I could never let nobody slap me. I could never let nobody slap me. I'm a Christian, but I could never do this. And so I understand how he feel, because you want to protect yourself. That's the first thing in survival, is protecting yourself. But what I'm saying is, if there is another way where it doesn't have to get physical, those are avenues that we need to think about. Those are avenues that we need to examine. We need to figure out how to disagree peacefully. We need to figure out how to stay out each other's way peacefully, because we continue to perpetuate this cycle of violence, it will never end. And so as people start to get harmed because someone hurt someone else, now the innocence of that person may be marred. They may start to hate God, hate themselves, and so we're just ruining people because of this, because of hurting people is hurting people. And so we have to really sit down and think about other ways where we can peacefully coexist, where we don't have to continue to perpetuate the cycle of violence, because a child doesn't deserve to be hurt or beat. A woman doesn't deserve to be hurt or beat, or a man. No one deserves that. And so when we come up with intelligent thought processes on how to mediate a bad situation, or maybe even a terrible situation, with our intellect, that's when you will begin to see things change for the good. And so these were just some thoughts that I came up with, and I wanted to share them. And so that is it. See you next time.